Right now, Sarah can't remember what she had for lunch yesterday, but ask her to sing A Whole New World from when she was 6, and she'll nail every single word. This backwards memory system, where your brain discards yesterday's mundane details while preserving childhood songs forever, has been shaping human survival for thousands of years. Sarah's brain isn't broken when it forgets what she had for lunch. It's working exactly as designed, actively deleting information it deems irrelevant. Recent neuroscience research reveals that forgetting is an active, adaptive process that enables memory updating and behavioral flexibility, not some passive decay system like an old hard drive losing data. Neuroscientist Nicholas Turk-Brown discovered that Sarah's brain operates like a ruthless editor, reducing or eliminating noisy or inaccurate memories and prioritizing those things that are more reliable for her survival. When she walked to the coffee shop yesterday, her brain made thousands of micro-predictions. Which car would be parked where, which person would be at the counter, what the barista would say. The more strongly her brain predicted something incorrectly, the more likely it was to delete that predicted memory entirely. And the greater the error, the more likely you are to forget the memory. This isn't random. Sarah's memory system uses an automatic, unconscious mechanism to figure out when things turn out not to be reliable in terms of how the world is structured. That mundane Tuesday lunch. Her brain classified it as unreliable noise within hours. But when she intentionally suppresses an unwanted memory, her brain shifts attention to alternative cues, creating competing neural patterns that actively interfere with the original memory's retrieval. The childhood songs survive because they're wired differently. They bypassed this prediction error system entirely, encoding during a time when her developing brain treated emotional experiences as survival-critical information. Most of Sarah's forgotten memories remain intact and available, but become temporarily inaccessible, with distinct memory patterns competing for expression during any given moment. Her brain isn't failing her. It's treating most of her daily life as disposable background noise while preserving what it believes will keep her alive. But when Sarah was 6 years old, something radically different happened to those Disney songs. During the critical period for brain development that spans early childhood through puberty, Sarah's brain exhibited heightened neural plasticity that allowed it to establish and refine neural connections rapidly. Her developing brain was wired to naturally absorb language patterns and emotional content with an efficiency her adult brain can no longer match. These neural windows don't stay open forever. Researchers discovered that molecules regulating critical periods in the hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, participate in locking down emotional memories during childhood in ways that become essentially irreversible by adulthood. The hippocampus undergoes a developmental critical period to become functionally competent. When Sarah sang A Whole New World at age 6, her brain wasn't just processing lyrics. It was encoding them during a critical period where her neural circuits treated emotionally engaging experiences as permanent survival information. The structural changes happening in her hippocampus, from dendritic spine modifications to large-scale rewiring, were fundamentally different from how her adult brain learns today. The hippocampus plays a necessary role in processing episodic and contextual memories, including non-aversive ones, and matures through a developmental critical period. Sarah's 6-year-old brain operated under completely different rules than her 32-year-old brain does now. That childhood window treated everything as potentially life or death information worth preserving forever. Her adult brain, by contrast, treats most daily experiences as disposable noise. The result is that Sarah's personality was essentially locked in by age 7, when these critical windows began closing and her brain shifted from its childhood survival mode to its adult filtering mode. The person she became was determined not by her choices, but by which songs moved her, which stories scared her, which moments felt emotionally real during those irreplaceable years when her brain was still plastic enough to be permanently shaped. 5 years after Sarah's first Disney movie, her brain had already shifted into its adult mode. But the survival programming that created her backwards memory system runs much deeper than childhood. Sarah's ancestors spent well over 99% of their species' evolutionary history living in hunter-gatherer societies, which means that Sarah's forebears lived in small, nomadic bands of a few dozen individuals who got all of their food each day by gathering plants or by hunting animals. Each of Sarah's ancestors was, in effect, on a camping trip that lasted an entire lifetime, and this way of life endured for most of the last 10 million years. Generation after generation, for 10 million years, natural selection slowly sculpted the human brain, including Sarah's brain, favoring circuitry that was good at solving the day-to-day problems of her hunter-gatherer ancestors. Sarah's memory system mirrors exactly what these ancestors needed to survive. Research from the University of New Mexico found that human memory systems are tuned to remember information that is processed in terms of its fitness value. When people like Sarah are asked to rate the relevance of words to a survival scenario, performance on subsequent surprise memory tests exceeds that obtained after most other known encoding techniques. Sarah would remember information better after processing its relevance in an ancestral environment, the grasslands, compared to a modern urban environment, downtown Seattle. Despite the fact that both scenarios described similar fitness-relevant problems, her memory system may be tuned to ancestral priorities. The reason Sarah remembers childhood songs but forgets lunch isn't a bug. It's the feature that kept her species alive. Finding enough food was a full-time occupation involving everyone in her ancestors' bands. Sarah's nervous system values feelings of productivity because it generally resulted in the resources needed to survive. There were strong feelings of group cohesion and alliance to her village, reflected in today's in-group and out-group biases and wariness of strangers, especially if they do not look like you. Additionally, hunting encouraged reciprocal altruism because one person cannot eat an entire animal. The successful hunter shared on his lucky week, someone else would share on another. Sarah's brain operates like a hunter-gatherer living in downtown Seattle. Her memory system prioritizes emotional bonds, social connections, and survival-relevant patterns over the mundane details of modern life because her brain is better at solving the kinds of problems her ancestors faced on the African savannas than it is at solving the more familiar tasks she faces in a marketing meeting or a modern city. She remembers like a hunter-gatherer in a digital world. Her memory was never designed for grocery lists and meeting schedules, but for the songs that bonded her tribe and the emotional experiences that meant the difference between life and death. But those childhood songs do something extraordinary that bypasses Sarah's adult forgetting system entirely. Music lights up nearly all of Sarah's brain, including her hippocampus and amygdala, which activate emotional responses to music through memory. Her limbic system, which governs pleasure, motivation, and reward, and her body's motor system. When 6-year-old Sarah sang A Whole New World, her brain wasn't processing just lyrics or melody. The brain's elaborate receptivity to music means that multiple different neural systems activate simultaneously, so music ends up being encoded as a rich, multi-layered experience that her adult brain treats as survival critical. This multi-system activation creates something neurologists call musical memory persistence. Dartmouth researchers discovered that Sarah's auditory cortex, the part that handles information from her ears, holds on to musical memories with unusual tenacity. In a study published in Nature, the Dartmouth team found that when Sarah listens to familiar music, she mentally calls upon auditory imagery to fill in gaps if the music cuts out. Using functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, the researchers found that Sarah's brain could mentally reconstruct missing snippets. As co-author William Kelly explains, it's fascinating that although the ear isn't actually hearing the song, the brain is perceptually hearing it. Sarah's brain doesn't just remember a whole new world. It can reconstruct the entire song from memory, complete with orchestration, even when she's sitting in silence. The implications reshape how we understand human evolution. Music may have evolved as humanity's first memory storage system, a biological technology that predates writing by tens of thousands of years. Before Sarah's ancestors developed external methods of preserving information, they used rhythm, melody, and emotional resonance to encode and transmit knowledge across generations. Sarah's ability to remember every word of a Disney song from age 6 isn't nostalgia. It's evidence that her brain contains the same memory architecture her ancestors used to preserve oral histories, cultural wisdom, and survival information through the power of song. Her brain didn't evolve to remember what she ate yesterday. It evolved to remember what kept her species alive. 25 years after Sarah's brain stopped being a 6-year-old sponge and shifted into its adult filtering mode, she stands at her bathroom mirror every morning and faces a profound truth. The person staring back at her isn't the sum of her experiences. She's the sum of her emotional reactions to those experiences. Sarah's identity wasn't built from the factual details of her life. It was built from how those details made her feel. Researchers at Stanford discovered something extraordinary about how Sarah's sense of self actually formed. Her episodic autobiographical memory, the conscious recollection of personal experiences, ensures the continuity of her identity through time. But that continuity isn't based on accuracy, it's based on emotional coherence. Sarah's brain doesn't preserve the objective truth of what happened to her. It preserves her subjective experience of what those events meant. This is why Sarah can sing every word of A Whole New World, but can't remember yesterday's lunch. That Disney song didn't just enter her memory. It entered her emotional memory system, the part of her brain that treats feelings as survival-critical information. Her lunch was just data. The song was identity. Emotions intensify memory consolidation through the amygdala cortex circuit, prioritizing memories by emotional associations rather than factual accuracy. The revelation that changes everything. You are not your memories. You are your emotional relationship to your memories. Sarah's brain wasn't designed to be a video recorder of her life. It was designed to be an emotional curator, preserving not what happened, but how what happened made her feel. Her consciousness itself is her memory system in action, constantly reconstructing her sense of self from the emotional residue of a lifetime of experiences. Her backwards memory isn't broken, it's the feature that makes her human. Here's what you can do right now to work with your ancient memory system instead of against it. First, connect new information to things you already know or care about. Your brain naturally prioritizes information that feels personally relevant. When you're trying to remember something important, ask yourself how it relates to your life, your goals, or something you already understand deeply. By manipulating the information, playing with it, and linking it to old information, you are helping to encode this information into long-term memory. If you can connect the new information to an area of special interest, it is even more likely to resonate and stick. Second, engage multiple senses when learning new material to create richer encoding. Your brain remembers childhood songs because they activated multiple neural systems simultaneously. You can recreate this by combining visual, auditory, and even physical elements when you're trying to learn something. Good encoding techniques include relating new information to what one already knows, forming mental images, and creating associations among information that needs to be remembered. Write it down while saying it out loud, create a mental picture of it, or associate it with a physical movement. Third, use your emotional system strategically. Regulated emotional arousal facilitates focused attention and deeper processing, enhancing memory formation. Notice what naturally triggers your emotions, stories, music, vivid imagery, and incorporate these elements when you need to remember something important. Emotionally charged events are often encoded more robustly due to amygdala activation, which modulates memory consolidation. This doesn't mean you need to feel intense emotions. Even mild curiosity, surprise, or personal connection can significantly boost your memory. Fourth, practice retrieval, not just repetition. Strategic retrieval practice, spaced over time, is one of the most potent encoding strategies. Actively recalling information from memory rather than passively rereading strengthens neural connections and identifies gaps in understanding, leading to superior long-term retention. Instead of rereading your notes 5 times, read them once and then test yourself on the content multiple times over several days. Finally, create environmental and contextual cues. The principle of encoding specificity holds that memory recall will be improved when additional context is encoded that is present at both stages. This additional encoded context functions as a memory cue for retrieval of an existing memory being recalled from LTM study in the same location where you'll need to recall the information, or create specific mental associations that you can trigger later. Associative thinking helps memory by linking new information to something already familiar, creating a shortcut that makes recall faster and more reliable. Your memory isn't broken, it's revealing the deepest truth about who you are. But here's the most profound insight of all. Every time you remember something, your brain literally rewrites that memory. Each time Sarah recalls A Whole New World, her brain doesn't just replay a recording, it destabilizes the entire memory trace, updates it with her current emotional state and new associations, then reconsolidates it into a modified version. This process allows her brain to continuously update existing memories with new information, ensuring they remain relevant and useful for survival. This means Sarah's most cherished memories aren't pristine archives from her past. They're living documents that her brain rewrites every single time she accesses them. That Disney song she remembers so perfectly has been subtly modified thousands of times, each retrieval adding layers of meaning, emotion, and context from every stage of her life. Her 6-year-old self isn't preserved in amber. She's been continuously updated by every version of Sarah who has remembered that moment since. This is why Sarah's backwards memory system is actually humanity's greatest evolutionary triumph. The ability to update and modify our most important memories ensures they remain adaptive tools for navigating an ever-changing world. Sarah doesn't just remember her past. She actively curates it, ensuring that the memories that define her identity continue to serve her survival and growth throughout her entire lifetime. The implications are staggering. You are not just shaped by your memories, you are constantly reshaping them. Every time you recall a meaningful experience, you have the power to influence how that memory will affect your future self. Sarah's brain isn't just a product of her past. It's an active architect of her ongoing identity, using the ancient wisdom of reconsolidation to ensure that her most important memories evolve alongside her changing world. Your memory system isn't broken. It's not failing you when it forgets mundane details. It's performing exactly as evolution designed, preserving what matters most while remaining flexible enough to adapt, update, and grow. Like Sarah standing at her mirror each morning, you are not the sum of what happened to you. You are the living, breathing, constantly updating story of how those experiences continue to shape who you become. And that story gets rewritten every single time you remember it.